Okay, so I wanted to talk today a little bit about gambling and why I believe that gambling is a tax for poor people. Now, this was a concept that I was thinking about a lot the past couple of days because I had this influx of subscribers who found my channel because of a video that I made about gambling addiction. Now, for anyone that doesn't know or that isn't familiar, I used to be a professional poker player for about 8 to 9 years of my life. So the gambling world was something that was a huge part of my 20s. And it wasn't just online, it was also traveling and going to casinos and going to Vegas and all different types of gambling and betting, not just through poker. It's also like sports betting and playing things like blackjack and roulette. Like I was fully engulfed in the gambling world. And so this is a topic that kind of hits home with me as it's sort of one that I've gone through in my past, not my past life, but gone through in my past, and I've kind of overcome over the years. Now, I no longer consider myself someone that has a gambling problem, as I do gamble occasionally. Not very often, but every once in a while I will, put a wager on something or play a game of cards with my friends or family or something like that. But I don't have the compulsive tendencies as someone that has a gambling addiction does, where they just bet an exorbitant amount of money for that rush, for that dopamine rush, for that excitement, of wagering a bet at the chance of winning big. And this got me thinking because I've been getting a lot of comments of people on the topic of gambling. And I was thinking about wagering and gambling in general, and that it's basically just a tax in disguise for poor people. And this is really prevalent when it comes to lottery in particular, as I'm sure that there is tons of people, if not friends or coworkers or even family members that who buy lottery tickets on a weekly basis, a daily basis, or whatever your local lotteries are. And I know that the reasoning that I've heard from people is that they don't have any other ways out of where they are in their community, or maybe they don't have the skills or education, or they don't have the proper environment where they can thrive and be more successful financially. And so their only way out is a small, tiny, minuscule chance of hitting it big in the lottery. So that is why they play. However, this is an incorrect way of thinking, because if you just look at all the money that you were to spend on lottery tickets, and now this is going to be extremely unpopular advice, but if you were to take all that money that those people spend on tickets, whether it's scratch cards, hitting the Powerball jackpot, or whatever lottery there is, and if you took that money and put it into an index fund and let it compound, or invested it in the stock market or whatever, some type of fund, it would not generate you a tremendous amount of wealth. And that outcome is not sexy, right? Because people want to hit it big. They want to hit like the millions. They want to hit 10 million, 20 million, 50 million. Like that is what excites people when it comes to gambling, and more specifically the lottery. However, the smarter decision is to not spend that money through gambling, because you're just taxing yourself. And it's really easy for people like myself, to be judgmental on others that make this decision on a daily basis, to be an avid gambler or someone that plays the lottery regularly. But this comes from a place of experience where I know exactly what chasing the rush feels like. I know that world far too well. There's been nights where I've been at the casino for 24, 28, 30 hours, 35 hours, like a day and a half of just playing nonstop without sleeping, without going to bed, or without changing my clothes, which is disgusting, right? But like that, I've been in that world. I've lived that life. So I know what that feeling is, that rush that you get, and also that tiny little chance of hitting it big. I know exactly what that feels like. And some people will say that they have no other options, where they are. But essentially, all you're doing is just giving yourself another tax on your money. And it's just going to destroy you financially. Because if you think about all the taxation that we pay, especially in North America, whether it's sales tax, income tax, property tax, capital gains tax on your investments, or even the deductions on your paycheck, like things like unemployment or EI or CPP, which in Canada we have a Canadian pension plan deduction on our paycheck. Like there's so many deductions and taxes in your life that voluntarily adding a gambling tax to your income, it's such a bad decision to make financially, and it's one that keeps people poor. So this is why I believe that gambling or playing the lottery, it's just an extra tax for poor people, and that's all that it really is. And what's crazy too is in some countries, even if you do win, right? Say you win some Powerball jackpot lottery, like in the US, I'm pretty sure you have to pay income tax on those winnings, right? So not only are you paying a gambling tax on the ticket to entry, that if for that 1 in a billion chance you do win, you still have to pay income tax on those winnings, which is just like insane to me, because now you're paying 2 times the tax. And it's just, I don't know, it kind of drives me nuts, because it's something that I've been victim to, but I've been able to overcome it and come out on the other side. And now I have this perspective when it comes to gambling and how detrimental it can be. Now, of course, there is the tiny 1% of 1% of 1% who make a living in the gambling world, whether that's professional poker players, blackjack card counters, or people that are really good at sports and betting on the money line. Like there are professional sports bettors. So like there are professions within the gambling world where this advice doesn't really apply to, because I know professional like poker players and I know professional gamblers who have made a living and still make a living to this day. But for the vast majority of us, for all the rest of us, these are all losing proposition bets. And in the gambling world, we call this negative EV decision making. And EV basically stands for expected value, as whenever you're playing any of these games, whenever you're wagering any bets, if you're not in the vast minority of these like brilliant professionals who are amazing, whether it's mathematically or with card counting where they have a mathematical statistical advantage, if you are not one of these people, you have absolutely no chance of winning anything long term, which makes gambling a negative EV proposition bet. And the best way that I usually explain this to people, or a way that I picture it, is imagine if me and you were flipping a coin and I was a casino or I was a government who was offering you a lottery ticket. And for every $1 I wager, you would have to wager $1.01, and we'll flip a coin where 50% of the time I'm going to win, 50% of the time you're going to win. But in these games, you're being put in a place mathematically where you're never going to win. You will always lose money. And this is applicable to things like slots and roulette and whatever other casino game where you're playing against a house. And this applies to lottery as well, because these propositions, whether it's, I don't know if it's a government, which usually controls the lottery like they do here in Canada, and they basically are profiting off of all this stuff. And so if you're someone that is kind of stuck in the gambling world, this very simple idea of viewing gambling as a tax really helped me to get away from that world, because I hate paying taxes. I hate paying an excessive amount of tax, because we are taxed on everything. And especially now with inflation at an all-time high, cost of living, interest rates, and everything. The whole economy of the world is just getting more and more expensive. And becoming financially savvy, building up some form of knowledge or base where you understand money, where you understand investing, where you take personal finance seriously, it's going to be very, very important for you moving forward, especially with the times as of right now. So if you are someone that is watching this and you are struggling with some form of gambling addiction in your life, just remember that all you are essentially doing is adding a form of taxation to yourself that is voluntary, that you don't have to pay. So hopefully this video helped you in some way. And remember that if you want to start a self-improvement journey of your own, 1 year from now, you're going to be thankful you started today. Thanks for watching.